The shadows stir with anticipation. Void of Fears now stands merely 500 subscribers away from our 10k milestone. I never imagined so many would willingly step into the darkness with me. Your support, every subscription, every like, every comment, has fueled something beyond understanding. We're so close now. The entity that watches over this channel trembles with anticipation as we approach the threshold we've sought all year. To those who've joined our communion of fear, thank you. To those just finding us, welcome. The void has been waiting for you. My name is Dr. James Norris, and I need to record what happened before it's too late. For 15 years, I've worked with NASA's Archaeological Anomalies Division, specializing in ancient structures that defy conventional historical understanding. I never imagined my expertise would lead me to discover something that would change humanity forever. It began in January 2025. I was reviewing data from our latest scan of the Great Pyramid of Giza when I noticed an anomaly. Our new ground-penetrating radar had detected a chamber that previous technologies had missed. A void approximately 40 feet long and 20 feet high, situated deep within the pyramid's core. What made this discovery particularly unusual wasn't just its location, but the fact that it appeared to be perfectly sealed, with no visible entrance or exit. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities was initially skeptical, but after 3 independent verifications, they granted our team limited access. I remember the flight to Cairo vividly, staring out the window at the vast desert below, wondering what secrets awaited us. The air was thick with anticipation. When we arrived at the Giza plateau, an unusual winter sandstorm was brewing on the horizon. The massive silhouette of the Great Pyramid loomed against the darkening sky, casting an enormous shadow across the sand. My team consisted of 5 NASA specialists, myself, 2 engineers named Michael Dawson, and Rebecca Liu, our imaging expert Thomas Griffin, and Dr. Amelia Foster, who specialized in ancient languages. We were joined by 3 representatives from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, led by Dr. Farid Khouri. "The storm is getting worse," Dr. Khouri warned as we approached the pyramid's northern face. "We should hurry." The equipment we brought represented the cutting edge of archaeological technology. Our resonance imaging device could map structures with unprecedented accuracy while causing no damage to the ancient stones. As we set up our base camp inside the pyramid's known chambers, I couldn't help but feel we were being watched. The ancient stones seemed to hum with an energy I'd never felt before. For 3 days, we mapped the exact location of the hidden chamber and debated how to access it without damaging the pyramid's structural integrity. The Egyptian officials were understandably protective of their national treasure, but equally curious about what lay within. On the 4th day, we determined that a small section of blocks on the eastern wall of the Queen's Chamber concealed a narrow passage that might lead to our target. Using precision laser cutting tools, we carefully removed 1 stone block, revealing a dark passage beyond that had remained sealed for thousands of years. The air that rushed out was surprisingly cool and dry, carrying a faint metallic scent, unlike the musty odour typically found in sealed ancient spaces. We inserted a camera probe, revealing a narrow corridor that extended about 30 feet before opening into a larger space. "This doesn't match any known architectural pattern in Egyptian pyramid construction," Dr. Khouri whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. By evening, we had widened the opening enough for a person to pass through. As the expedition leader, I volunteered to go first. Equipped with a high-definition camera, air quality sensors, and a communication link to the team, I slipped into the narrow passage. The corridor was unnaturally smooth, its walls polished to a degree that seemed impossible for ancient technology. As I moved deeper, my headlamp revealed intricate symbols etched into the stone. Not traditional hieroglyphics, but something more complex and unfamiliar. When I finally emerged into the chamber, my breath caught in my throat. The room was perfectly hexagonal, its walls covered in the same strange symbols. But what truly captured my attention was the central platform, upon which rested what appeared to be a sarcophagus, but unlike any I'd ever seen in Egypt. Instead of the familiar ornate Egyptian coffins, this container was smooth, made of a material that resembled obsidian, but seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Around the sarcophagus, arranged in a precise circle, were 7 objects that looked like metallic orbs, each about the size of a baseball. "James, what do you see?" Rebecca's voice crackled through my headset. "Something impossible," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "You need to see this for yourselves." Within an hour, the entire team had made their way into the chamber. The Egyptian officials were stunned, continuously running their hands over the smooth walls and muttering in Arabic. "These materials," Michael said, examining one of the orbs, "they don't match anything in the archaeological record. This metal, it's not gold, not silver, not any alloy I recognize." Dr. Foster was furiously photographing and attempting to translate the wall symbols. These aren't hieroglyphics or any known ancient script. They contain elements similar to Proto-Sinaitic writing, but with structural patterns I've never encountered. As we documented everything, I noticed something disturbing. The temperature in the chamber was gradually rising, and several team members reported feeling lightheaded. Thomas complained of a persistent buzzing in his ears. "There's some kind of energy field in here," Rebecca said, checking her instruments. "Electromagnetic readings are off the charts." Dr. Khoury approached the sarcophagus, his expression a mixture of reverence and fear. "We should not open this," he said firmly, "not until we understand what we're dealing with." But scientific curiosity is a powerful force. After heated debate, we agreed to at least examine the sarcophagus more closely. As we approached, I noticed subtle indentations along its side. Not decorative, but functional, like a complex locking mechanism. Thomas discovered that the 7 orbs fit perfectly into depressions around the sarcophagus. "It's like a key system," he explained. "Each orb needs to be placed in a specific position." Despite Dr. Khoury's continued objections, we carefully placed the orbs in what seemed to be their designated locations. As the final orb clicked into place, a low hum filled the chamber, and lines of blue light appeared along the seams of the sarcophagus. With a hiss of escaping air, the lid began to rise slowly, revealing its contents. Inside wasn't a mummy wrapped in linen, but a humanoid figure, preserved in what appeared to be a clear, crystal-like substance. The being looked almost human, but with subtle differences. Longer limbs, a slightly larger cranium, and skin with a faint bluish tint. "This isn't ancient Egyptian," Dr. Foster whispered. "This isn't human." Before anyone could respond, the crystal substance began to liquefy, evaporating into the air. The chamber's temperature spiked dramatically, and several team members collapsed, clutching their heads in pain. I felt a pressure building behind my eyes, accompanied by flashes of images I couldn't comprehend. Vast structures on barren landscapes, beings moving among stars, civilizations rising and falling. The entity in the sarcophagus remained motionless, but I felt a presence in my mind, as though something was sifting through my thoughts and memories. "We need to leave," I gasped, helping Rebecca to her feet. "Something's happening." But Dr. Khoury and his colleagues had fallen unconscious, and Thomas was on his knees, blood trickling from his nose. Only Michael, Rebecca, Dr. Foster and I remained aware enough to move. As we struggled toward the passage, the entity's eyes opened, deep, violet eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. I felt rather than heard a voice in my mind. "You have awakened me from stasis. After 12,000 years, the cycle begins anew." The voice wasn't threatening. It was calm, almost clinical. I turned back, unable to resist its pull. "What are you?" I asked aloud. Images flooded my mind. beings travelling between stars, arriving on Earth during its early history, guiding primitive humans, constructing massive structures across the planet. We were your guides, the voice continued in my head. Some called us gods. We shaped your evolution, your civilizations. The Great Pyramids were not tombs. They were technologies beyond your understanding. Michael had returned to my side, his face pale. James, we need to go. Now. But I couldn't move, transfixed by the entity's revelations. It continued to communicate telepathically, explaining that it had been placed in stasis after a conflict among its kind. A faction that wanted to elevate humanity competed against those who saw us only as experiments to be controlled. My awakening will signal to others of my kind, it explained. Those who wish to keep humanity suppressed will return. The changes I initiated in your species millennia ago will now accelerate. Dr. Foster managed to retrieve her camera and was recording everything, though I doubted conventional equipment could capture the telepathic communication. The entity began to move, its body transforming subtly as it adjusted to Earth's atmosphere after millennia of stasis. The orbs around the sarcophagus pulsed with increasing intensity, and the symbols on the walls began to glow. The air in the chamber grew thick, almost viscous, making each breath a struggle. I watched in horrified fascination as the entity rose from its resting place with liquid grace, towering nearly 8 feet tall. Its movements were unnaturally smooth, as if gravity affected it differently. You must understand, the voice resonated in my mind. Your civilization was seeded, your development guided. The potential written into your genetic code has merely been dormant. The entity extended a long 6-fingered hand toward me. I felt an overwhelming urge to take it, to accept whatever knowledge or transformation it offered. Behind me, I heard Rebecca screaming my name, her voice seeming to come from miles away. James, don't touch it. Look at Thomas. Breaking the entity's hypnotic gaze, I glanced at our imaging expert. Thomas's skin had taken on a greyish pallor, and blue lines were spreading across his face like fracturing glass. His eyes had rolled back, showing only whites now stained with dark veins. We finally managed to retreat to the passage, dragging Dr. Kahuri and one of his colleagues with us. The other Egyptian official remained in the chamber, seemingly in a trance-like state, approaching the entity with outstretched arms. As we emerged from the passage into the Queen's chamber, we found it filled with Egyptian military personnel. They immediately detained us, confiscating our equipment and separating us for questioning. For 3 days, I was held in isolation at a military facility near Cairo. Through a window, I could see unusual aerial activity, helicopters, and what appeared to be experimental aircraft circling the pyramid complex. The night sky glowed with strange aurora-like phenomena, despite Egypt's southern latitude. My sleep was plagued by vivid dreams, or perhaps visions. I saw ancient civilizations rising under the guidance of beings like the one we discovered. I witnessed massive stone structures being erected across the globe, their true purposes disguised as monuments and temples. I experienced fragmentary memories of genetic manipulation, of humanity being shaped and guided over thousands of years. On the 4th day, a man in a plain black suit who identified himself only as a NASA liaison informed me that the discovery had been classified at the highest level. He explained that unusual phenomena were being reported worldwide. Power fluctuations, unexplained aurora-like lights, and mass reports of vivid, similar dreams across different cultures. You didn't find a tomb, Dr. Norris, he said flatly. You found something we've been searching for since the 1940s. Ancient texts from multiple civilizations reference these beings. We just didn't expect to find one still alive. When I demanded to know about my colleagues, he revealed that Thomas had died from what was described as a cerebral hemorrhage. The others were being held separately. Your colleague's body is changing, he admitted reluctantly, even after death. We've never seen anything like it. He showed me photographs of Thomas's body. His skin had transformed into something resembling a bluish-grey chitinous shell, and his cranium had expanded dramatically. The man assured me that Rebecca, Michael, and Dr. Foster were still alive but undergoing extensive testing. The military compound where I was being held was becoming increasingly chaotic. I overheard guards discussing worldwide communications disruptions, unexplained phenomena at other archaeological sites, and unusual solar activity. Some spoke in hushed tones about objects in orbit that weren't satellites. That night, I escaped the facility using credentials I found carelessly left by a guard. Whether this was intentional or not, I'm still unsure. I made my way to Alexandria, where I contacted an old colleague who helped me board a cargo ship bound for Greece. The journey across the Mediterranean was surreal. The night sky displayed colours and patterns I'd never seen before, ribbons of light dancing across the stars. The ship's electronics malfunctioned regularly, compasses spinning wildly before settling again. I spent hours staring into the depths of the sea, feeling a strange connection to certain currents and patterns in the water. It was as if I could sense the ancient history of the planet through its oceans, a history far different from what we've been taught. During the journey, I began to experience strange symptoms: heightened sensory perception, vivid dreams of ancient civilizations, and the ability to understand snippets of languages I'd never studied. More alarmingly, I noticed subtle physical changes, my skin developing a faint iridescence in sunlight, my night vision dramatically improving. I could see energy patterns around living things now, auras for lack of a better term. The ship's captain, a gruff, practical man, glowed with a warm amber light. Some of the crew exhibited different colours, and I began to realise I could sense their emotional states and, occasionally, catch fragments of their thoughts. In Athens, I found temporary refuge with an archaeologist friend, Eleni Papadakis, who had studied ancient Greek myths about visitors from the stars. When she saw me, her face went pale. "Your eyes," she whispered. "They're changing colour." In the mirror, I saw that my once brown irises now contained flecks of violet, the same unearthly shade as the entity's eyes. The whites of my eyes had developed a subtle pearlescent quality. Eleni helped me establish secure communications with contacts in the archaeological community. Through these channels, I learned that similar changes were being reported globally. People in all countries were experiencing enhanced cognitive abilities, sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, and in some cases, physiological changes. Government agencies worldwide were struggling to contain the information, but satellite imagery leaked online showed strange lights appearing above ancient sites: Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Angkor Wat, and others. Amateur astronomers reported unusual objects in orbit, and NASA had abruptly cancelled several planned press conferences. I managed to make contact with Rebecca 3 weeks after our escape. She had fled to Switzerland and was experiencing similar transformations. Through encrypted communications, we shared our observations and theories. "It was never about finding artifacts," she wrote. "We were the artifacts. Human DNA was modified by these beings millennia ago, with changes designed to activate upon their return." The pyramids weren't tombs. They were stasis chambers and transmitters designed to broadcast a signal when the time was right. Rebecca had made contact with a geneticist who had been studying the sudden mutations appearing in human populations worldwide. The changes seemed to follow a pattern: accelerated neural development, enhanced sensory processing, and in some cases, physical adaptations that defied medical explanation. The entity didn't just wake up, Rebecca theorized. It activated something dormant in our DNA. Not everyone is changing, though. It seems to affect only those with specific genetic markers, perhaps descendants of humans who who were most extensively modified by these beings in ancient times. I spent the next month moving between safe locations throughout Europe, gathering information and documenting my ongoing transformation. My senses continued to sharpen. I could hear conversations from impossible distances, see clearly in near total darkness, and increasingly perceive the thoughts and emotions of those around me. In Paris, I encountered others undergoing similar changes. We were drawn to each other somehow, recognizing the signs in one another that most humans couldn't perceive. A physicist from the CERN laboratory explained that her team had detected unusual cosmic radiation patterns beginning precisely when we opened the chamber in Giza. Whatever signal was sent, she explained, it wasn't just local. It propagated through space almost instantaneously, defying the known laws of physics. By this time, governments could no longer conceal what was happening. Official explanations ranged from mass hysteria to environmental contaminants to solar radiation. Religious leaders proclaimed everything from the end times to spiritual awakening. Cults formed around those undergoing the most dramatic transformations. In a remote village in the French countryside, I met an elderly woman who claimed her grandmother had passed down stories about the returners, beings who had guided humanity's early development and promised to return when we were ready for the next stage of evolution. Her family had protected these oral traditions for generations, dismissed as folklore by modern scholars. They walked among us once, she told me in flawless English, though I knew she spoke only French. Somehow language barriers no longer existed for me. They will walk among us again. Some come to elevate, others to harvest. You have become the bridge. Meanwhile, my physical changes accelerated. My fingers had grown slightly longer. My skin had developed a subtle bluish undertone in certain lights, and my cranium had expanded enough that hats no longer fit properly. I found I needed less sleep. 2 or 3 hours sufficed, and food had become almost optional. Through my network of transformed individuals, I learned that Michael had escaped from custody and was working with a group of scientists in Japan who were studying the changes. Dr. Foster had published a partial translation of the symbols from the chamber online before disappearing entirely. The Egyptian official who had remained in the chamber with the entity had emerged 3 days later, completely transformed. According to leaked reports, he no longer appeared human at all, but moved with unnatural speed and could manipulate electronic systems with his mind. He had escaped containment, leaving 7 guards dead, their bodies drained of all cellular water. 6 weeks after our discovery, unusual seismic activity was detected near all major ancient monuments worldwide. The Great Pyramid at Giza began emitting low-frequency sounds that disrupted electrical grids across North Africa. Similar phenomena occurred at Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, the Nazca Lines, and dozens of other sites, previously thought to be unrelated. A colleague with access to classified NASA data shared alarming information. Objects of enormous size had been detected approaching Earth from beyond Neptune's orbit. They defied radar detection, appearing only in certain wavelengths of light, and moved in ways that violated Newtonian physics. 2 months have passed since we opened that chamber. I'm recording this account from a remote location that I won't disclose. My transformation continues. I hardly recognize myself in mirrors now. My thoughts move faster, clearer than before. I can sense electromagnetic fields, predict weather changes, and increasingly glimpse thoughts from those around me. I've connected with approximately 300 others undergoing similar transformations worldwide. We share information through means beyond conventional technology, a kind of telepathic network that strengthens daily. Some have developed even more dramatic abilities: telekinesis, matter manipulation, energy projection. From what I can gather online and through this network of the transformed, governments are offering contradictory explanations for the phenomena: solar flares, atmospheric anomalies, mass hysteria. but the changes in humanity are becoming impossible to hide or explain away. Yesterday I dreamed of the entity again. It showed me visions of ships approaching Earth, massive vessels on trajectories from distant stars. Some come to protect those of us undergoing the change, others come to eliminate us. The entity from the pyramid is not alone. The faction that lost the ancient conflict is returning to reclaim their experiment. We unlocked something that set these events in motion, but I now understand that this was inevitable. The chamber would have activated on its own eventually. We merely accelerated the timeline. Last night I witnessed something extraordinary. Thousands of people gathered at the Giza plateau, drawn there by dreams or instinct. I watched through the eyes of one of the transformed who was present. The crowd stood in silence as the Great Pyramid began to glow with blue light, the same color as the orbs we had found. The entity appeared above the pyramid, no longer bound by physical form. It addressed the crowd telepathically, explaining that humanity stood at a crossroads. We had been created as a hybrid species millennia ago, our development guided but ultimately autonomous. Now we faced a choice: complete the transformation or remain as we are. Those who choose transformation will become something beyond human, joining the galactic community that has observed us for eons. Those who reject it will remain unaltered, though their descendants may eventually evolve naturally to a similar state. But there are others coming. The faction that sees humanity only as biological resources, genetic material to be harvested. They seeded many worlds and return periodically to collect the results of their experiments. The transformed are organizing now, preparing to defend Earth against these harvesters. We possess abilities that grow stronger each day, but we lack the knowledge and technology to stand against beings who have traveled between stars for millions of years. I've received fragmented visions of the coming conflict. Cities in flames, oceans boiling, the sky filled with craft beyond human understanding. But I've also seen possibilities of transcendence, humanity evolving beyond physical form, joining a cosmic community of intelligence. I don't know how much longer I'll remain human. Each day brings new changes, new abilities, and new terrors. If you're reading this, know that what we discovered in Giza wasn't just a hidden chamber. It was humanity's true origin, and a glimpse of our destined evolution. The pyramids were never tombs for pharaohs. They were containment structures for beings far beyond our understanding, and beacons for their eventual return. They're coming back now. I can feel them approaching, and soon you will too. My last act as Dr. James Norris will be to broadcast this testimony as widely as possible. The transformation has progressed too far for me to remain in human society. I and others like me are gathering at predetermined locations worldwide, preparing for what comes next. If you begin to experience changes, vivid dreams, enhanced perception, intuitive understanding of forgotten languages, know that you are not alone. Find others like yourself. The old world is ending, but something new is being born. Whether that new world will be salvation or extinction depends on choices yet to be made. This is Dr. James Norris, formerly of NASA's Archaeological Anomalies Division, signing off. May whatever gods truly exist have mercy on us all. Wait, something's happening. The sky outside my window is splitting open, revealing colours no human eye was meant to see. They've arrived sooner than I expected. I must go now. Remember, if your eyes begin to change, if you start to see the world differently, run. Find others like you. The harvest has begun, but so has the awakening. This is the end of humanity as we know it, and the beginning of something else entirely. Supplemental entry. 1 week later. I didn't expect to add to this record, but circumstances have changed dramatically. I've managed to establish a temporary safe location in the mountains of northern Finland, where the aurora borealis now blazes continuously, despite the season, forming patterns that seem to encode messages I'm beginning to understand. The transformations have accelerated. My physical form barely resembles what I once was. My height has increased by nearly 7 inches. My skin has developed a translucent quality that shifts with my emotional state, and I can perceive entire electromagnetic spectrums invisible to normal human vision. I've connected with Rebecca again, though not through conventional means. Our minds link across thousands of miles, sharing information instantaneously. She's gathered with 30 others like us in the Andes Mountains, where an ancient site long dismissed as natural rock formations has revealed itself to be a complex structure embedded with the same technology we found in Giza. Through our growing telepathic network, I've learned that Dr. Foster survived and has undergone even more dramatic changes than I have. She can manipulate matter at a molecular level now, a skill she's using to help protect those transitioning more painfully. Michael sadly did not survive his transformation. His heart couldn't withstand the neural reconfiguration. We mourn him though. Death seems an increasingly fluid concept as our understanding expands. The global situation deteriorates hourly. Conventional military forces have mobilized worldwide, though against what threat they cannot clearly define. Space-based defense systems have been activated, targeting objects that conventional radar cannot detect. Power grids fail and restore seemingly at random. Communications networks collapse and reshape themselves along new patterns. Religious fervor has reached unprecedented levels. Some worship the transformed as angels or demons, depending on their perspective. Others claim we represent evolutionary advancement, while still others insist we are victims of an extraterrestrial pathogen. All of these interpretations contain fragments of truth, yet none capture the full reality. The entity from Giza, who now tells us his name is unpronounceable, but approximates to Anunnaki in human language, has manifested physically in various locations simultaneously. He speaks openly now of the long history connecting his kind to Earth, how they first arrived billions of years ago and seeded the primordial oceans with specifically engineered microorganisms, how they returned periodically to guide evolution along particular paths, how eventually they created early hominids by blending their genetic material with that of promising primate species. Their purpose wasn't conquest or resource extraction, but something more profound. A vast experiment in consciousness development. Each seeded world represents a unique approach to evolving sentience. Earth's experiment focused on developing empathy and emotional intelligence alongside analytical abilities, qualities rare in cosmic civilizations. The conflict he described earlier is more complex than I initially understood. The opposing faction doesn't seek merely to harvest genetic material, but to prevent evolutionary advancement they consider dangerous. They believe consciousness should develop along strictly controlled lines, following patterns proven stable over billions of years. Earth's experiment was considered radical, potentially destabilizing to the cosmic order. These harvesters, as we've come to call them, have arrived in the outer solar system. Our transformed senses can detect their massive ships clustering near Jupiter, preparing for their approach to Earth. They move with terrible purpose, having eradicated countless civilizations that reached our current junction point. But we are not defenseless. Ancient structures worldwide, not just the famous megalithic sites, but thousands of lesser-known formations, have begun activating, revealing their true nature as components of a planetary defense system established eons ago. The strange dreams affecting millions worldwide contain operating instructions for these systems, embedded deep in human genetic memory. I've witnessed transformed humans intuitively understanding how to interface with technologies that defy conventional physics. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a woman who was once a schoolteacher now manipulates massive stone pillars with thought alone, rearranging them into configurations that generate energy fields visible only to our enhanced perception. In Zimbabwe, the patterns at Great Zimbabwe have been reordered by transformed locals to create what can only be described as a dimensional anchor point, stabilizing our reality against external manipulation. Most astonishing of all, the oceanic changes have begun. Massive structures are rising from the deep sea floors, artificial constructs that have lain dormant for millennia. The Mariana Trench contains not merely the deepest point in our oceans, but an entire complex of ancient technology extending miles into the Earth's crust. Similar complexes have activated in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. The knowledge flowing into my transformed mind suggests these oceanic structures serve dual purposes, both defensive systems against the harvesters and transformation accelerators for the next phase of human evolution. The oceans were always more important than we realized, not just as cradles of biological life, but as repositories for our Creator's most critical technologies. Yesterday, something extraordinary happened. As I meditated on an outcropping overlooking a frozen Finnish lake, my consciousness expanded beyond my physical form, projecting into orbit. I wasn't alone. Thousands of similarly transformed humans had achieved the same state, our disembodied minds forming a network surrounding Earth like a protective mesh. Together, we detected a probe from the Harvester fleet approaching Earth's atmosphere. Through means I cannot adequately describe, we collectively generated an energy field that intercepted and neutralized it. The effort nearly killed our physical bodies. I awoke hours later, nose bleeding, extremities numb, but we had succeeded in our first direct confrontation with the enemy. This morning, Dr. Curie contacted me telepathically. He survived after all, and has undergone transformation as well. The Egyptian government now works openly with transformed individuals, having accepted that this evolutionary leap represents not a threat, but an opportunity. The Great Pyramid has become the primary coordination point for the global network of activated sites, its true purpose finally realized after millennia of misinterpretation. The coming days will determine everything. The harvesters approach, but so do allies. Ships containing beings like the entity we found, rushing to defend their experiment, their children. We transformed humans stand at the fulcrum point between these cosmic forces, neither fully human anymore, nor truly like our creators. I don't know if humanity as a species will survive what's coming. Perhaps that's the wrong question. What matters is whether the experiment in consciousness that Earth represents will continue, whether the unique blend of rationality and emotion, technological ingenuity and artistic expression, individual identity and collective cooperation that defines us will persist in some form. Whatever happens, the Pyramid of Giza stands as it has for thousands of years. Not a tomb, but a beacon. Not a monument to death, but a technology of rebirth. The chamber we discovered wasn't hidden by accident. It was waiting to be found at precisely this moment in our development. I must end this transmission now. The aurora above has shifted to a deep crimson, a warning sign we've learned to recognize. Harvester Scout ships have entered the upper atmosphere. Those of us who have transformed fully are gathering our strength for the confrontation to come. If any unaltered humans find this record, if any remain when this cosmic clash resolves, know that what you called mythology, what you dismissed as ancient superstition, contained more truth than your science ever discovered. Your gods were real, your creation stories held truth. Your ancestors remembered in fragmentary form the beings who shaped your existence. And we, the transformed, have not abandoned you. Whatever we become in the crucible of this transformation, we fight for Earth's continued evolution, for the potential that exists in every human child, for the experiment in consciousness that makes this small planet so precious in the vast ancient tapestry of cosmic civilization. The skies are opening. They are coming, all of them. Final entry, 3 days later. This will be my final communication as an entity that can still be understood by human consciousness. The cascade of changes has reached critical momentum. What I am becoming has no name in any human language. The confrontation has begun in earnest. The Harvester fleet launched its first coordinated attack yesterday, targeting the major activation sites worldwide. Their weapons defy conventional physics, not merely destructive, but attempting to rewrite the fundamental properties of matter and energy in localized areas, creating zones where our technologies and abilities cannot function. Casualties among both transformed and conventional humans number in the millions. Major cities have been evacuated, their populations sheltering in underground facilities that we've discovered were built generations ago by secret groups who maintained the ancient knowledge. These bunkers connect to tunnel systems dating back thousands of years, designed specifically for this moment. The entity we awakened in Giza, Anunnaki, has revealed himself fully now. He is not merely one being but a composite consciousness, capable of simultaneous manifestation across multiple points in space-time. His kind do not experience reality linearly as we do. Their perception encompasses past, present, and potential futures simultaneously. Through him, I've glimpsed the true scope of the experiment Earth represents. We are not the first iteration. Previous human civilizations rose and fell over hundreds of thousands of years, each achieving different levels of technological and spiritual advancement before collapse. What we arrogantly named prehistory contained entire cycles of civilization, their physical evidence either destroyed or misidentified by our limited archaeological frameworks. The current cycle, our cycle, was designed to achieve something specific: the integration of technological development with spiritual advancement, creating beings capable of transcending physical limitations while maintaining emotional connections. Previous iterations achieved one or the other, never both in balance. Yesterday, the Transform gathered at key sites worldwide, not just the famous ancient monuments, but seemingly random locations that corresponded to energy nodes in Earth's geomagnetic field. Together, we activated what can only be described as a planetary consciousness. Earth itself is awakened, responding to the threat by manifesting defensive systems beyond our comprehension. The oceans have become battlegrounds between forces wielding energies that make nuclear weapons seem like children's toys. Islands have risen from the depths, while others have submerged. Continental shelves have shifted. What humans would call miracles or impossible events occur hourly now. Our allies arrived this morning, massive vessels emerging from what appear to be tears in the fabric of reality itself. They do not fight with conventional weapons, but with technologies that manipulate consciousness itself. In their presence, many of the Harvester's ships simply cease to exist, their probability collapsing to zero. But the Harvesters are ancient and powerful. They've deployed what Anunnaki calls reality anchors, devices that stabilize local space-time against manipulation, creating zones where conventional physics cannot be transcended. Within these zones, they operate with terrible efficiency, using weapons that harvest consciousness itself, absorbing the mental energies of their victims. I've learned why this conflict matters so deeply. Earth is not merely one experiment among many. It represents a potential inflection point in cosmic evolution. The balanced consciousness we are developing here could eventually transform the nature of reality itself, reshaping the universe according to different underlying principles. The Harvesters see this as an existential threat to the established order of cosmic civilization, a potential chaos factor in a system they've maintained for billions of years. Rebecca and I managed one final direct communication before she transcended completely. She had accessed the ancient knowledge repositories in South America and discovered something astonishing. The pyramid complexes worldwide form a geometric pattern that, when fully activated, can generate a field capable of protecting not just Earth but the entire solar system. The final component of this system lay dormant in Antarctica, beneath miles of ice, waiting for minds evolved enough to comprehend its operation. I volunteered to lead the Antarctic mission. 20 of us in our increasingly non-human forms journeyed to the coordinates, embedded in the ancient knowledge. There, beneath the ancient ice, we found a structure that predated not just human civilization but mammalian life on Earth. A perfect black pyramid 10 times the size of Giza, constructed of a material that absorbed all light and energy. Within it lay the master control system for Earth's defenses. Not a technology as we understand it, but a crystalline consciousness, dormant for millions of years. To activate it required a sacrifice. One of us had to merge completely with the crystal, surrendering individual identity to become the system's operating consciousness. Dr. Foster volunteered. I watched as she approached the crystal, her transformed body glowing within a light. She turned to us one last time, her eyes now pools of radiant energy, and spoke words that translated differently in each of our minds, perfectly tailored to our individual understanding. To me, she said, this was always the purpose, not to remain human, not to become like them, but to become something new. Tell our story, James, for as long as you remain in a form that can communicate with those who have not yet transformed. Her body dissolved into pure energy, merging with the crystal structure. The entire pyramid began to pulse with light, and I felt an immense consciousness expand outward, encompassing first Antarctica, then the entire planet. Above us, above the entire world, the battle shifted dramatically. The defensive systems activated with power beyond anything we had managed previously. The Harvester reality anchors collapsed. Their ships began to fail, some imploding, others fleeing back through the tears in space-time. But victory has come at a terrible cost. Much of what was human civilization lies in ruins. The Earth's geography has been permanently altered. Entire regions have become uninhabitable to conventional life forms, transformed into environments that obey different physical laws, and those of us who have transformed can never return to what we were. With each passing hour, I retain less of the human perspective that would make this account comprehensible to unaltered minds. My thoughts process in dimensions beyond spatial and temporal limitations. My awareness extends beyond my physical form, perceiving the quantum underpinnings of reality directly. The remaining harvesters have retreated beyond the heliopause, regrouping. Our allies predict they will return with greater forces, perhaps in decades, perhaps in centuries. Earth has time to prepare, to continue the transformation process for those humans who choose it. For that is the resolution that has been negotiated. No human will be forced to transform. Each will be given the choice with full understanding of what it means. Many will refuse, preferring to remain as they are. They will be protected, their civilization rebuilt with assistance from our allies, incorporating technologies compatible with human physiology and psychology. Others will choose the path of transformation, joining those of us who have already transcended human limitations. We will serve as guides and protectors during the transition period, maintaining connection to our human origins while exploring the vast potential of what we are becoming. As for me, I can feel the final transformation approaching. Soon, I will no longer be able to communicate in language or relate to reality as humans perceive it. Before that happens, I want to record one final truth. What we found in that chamber beneath the Pyramid of Giza was not a prisoner or a god or an alien being. It was a seed planted billions of years ago, designed to germinate only when humanity had developed enough to both awaken it and survive the consequences. We were never the masters of Earth. We were its cultivation, carefully tended until we ripened to this moment of cosmic significance. The circle closes, the experiment continues, but on a new level. The transformation that began in a hidden chamber now encompasses a planet. If you are reading this and remain fully human, know that those of us who change still carry our humanity within us, transformed but not erased. We remember what it meant to love, to dream, to strive against limitations. These qualities were not weaknesses to be discarded, but the very attributes that made Earth's experiment unique and precious. The stars await us all. Farewell.